Lamont, Jamaica Kincaid, Annie Dillard. And as I read, I began to question things that I had always just accepted. I no longer saw the Bible as a list of rules, but as the living, beautiful Word of God. I realized that I had put people into categories: saved, unsaved, good, bad, American, other, Christian, gay. I also saw that the church was called to help those who were poor and oppressed. It was a time of tears, but also a time of growth. I had never before been able to face the darkness of this world, and something very dark was about to happen. In 2010, my mom died of breast cancer. She was 60 years old. I watched her take her last breath in her bed in her bedroom. I had never felt such sadness in all my life. Felt like my heart was just torn in two. I was broken for the first time, and I had never been broken before. If there's a moment of salvation in my life, that was the moment. As my heart was ripped open, God was able to enter. My heart was filled with hope and joy and peace right there in my deep sorrow. The world changed at that moment, from being just the world to being God's gift. Everything became gift. All the things I had been reading became real to me and entered my heart. The Bible had new meaning for me. When I was little, I learned it. When I was married, I understood it in a new way. But when my heart was broken, the Word spoke to me. The words filled me. After my mom died, about a year later, I fell in love for the first time with a woman. I knew it was wrong because I was married, but I justified my actions because I'd never felt that way before. In all my 32 years, I had never been in love. I felt guilty for deceiving my husband and my family. My husband and I separated and got a divorce. This was a period of great loneliness for me. I struggled with the guilt and tearing my family apart. I was still mourning the loss of my mother and the loss of my marriage. I didn't date anyone. I just survived and felt sad. Then I found a church that took me in and loved me just as for who I was, without questions asked, judgments given. And then I began to think about what God might have for me in the future. I was teaching, but I wasn't sure I wanted to continue teaching. One afternoon, I was driving to Waxhaw. I was alone and thinking and praying that God would guide me and lead me. When I said out loud, "What about becoming a pastor?" I was so startled by the words and overcome with emotion, I had to pull the car over to the side of the road. Where had that thought come from? Certainly not my past. Women could not be pastors. Immediately I thought, no, I can't be a pastor. That's a crazy thought. But I just couldn't shake it. The rest of the drive, I was just filled with wonder. Later that evening, I told my friend about it, and I thought she's going to say, "Oh, yeah, that is crazy." Instead, she said, "Yeah, I can totally see you doing that." The next day, I called my cousin Kathy, who's kind of like an older sister to me. I was a little embarrassed to tell her. I thought she'd laugh and say, "Are you serious, Betsy?" But when I told her, she said, "Yeah, that fits you. You enjoy studying the Bible, and you like helping people." I was shocked. So I set up a time to talk to my pastor. I was waiting for someone to shut this idea down. Surely she would say, "No, that's not for you." I sat in her study and I said, "I had a crazy thought, Pastor, and I would like to hear your opinion. What if I studied to become a pastor?" immediately she said, "Yep, I'm not a bit surprised. Our church is supporting you." And I said, "Well, I'm surprised." And that began my journey towards seminary. I attended Union Presbyterian Seminary over on Sharon Road in Charlotte. And I loved being in seminary. I loved being in the classroom again, asking questions, reading theology, stretching my mind and my faith. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer, the same time my mom had. And I cried out to God, "No, no, no, I don't want to have cancer." The cancer had spread to my lymph nodes, and so I had to start chemo right away. All summer, I would go each week to get chemo, and then I would go to seminary to learn Greek on Saturday. Sometimes I'd have to lay on 2 chairs at the back of the classroom because I was weak and just listen to the professor, copy notes from my friends. After the surgery and radiation, I went back to teach in January. I just finished my last radiation treatment, and I was so tired. I wondered if I could go back in the classroom. My principal put me in a 3rd grade classroom that had lost their teacher in the middle of the year. She warned me. She said, "This is a rough class. They had a lot of behavior issues, and they had not learned anything all year. Their test scores had actually gone downhill since the beginning of the year." First day, the class was horrible. They wouldn't do anything I asked. 2 girls started shouting at each other, name-calling, cursing, throwing things. I had all these lesson plans, and I wasn't able to teach them anything. After the first day, I called my principal on the way home from school, and I said, "This class is hopeless." She assured me that I could do it and that she would support me. That night, I was distraught. I cried and prayed like I never prayed before. I got on my knees and I prayed that God would help me to love those children. And in my vulnerability, I also asked God to tell me who I was. I cried out to God, "God, who am I?" And I waited. I sat on my bed and I waited. And then I heard, not audibly, but I heard God say, "You are my child." And I just fell back on my bed and I basked in being God's child. The next day, I brought in a bag of apples and a clipboard. I carried the clipboard around and I noted everything in the class that was going on. During reading time, I passed out apples. I thought if they're chewing apples, they can't be talking. They would be reading. At least that was my hope. The kids looked surprised when I gave them an apple, but they were hungry and they ate that apple down to the core. Mostly something changed in me. I no longer saw them as naughty or hopeless. I saw them as wounded. They needed love, they needed structure, they needed to learn. I wish I could tell you that the year got easier. It didn't. I had to be vigilant and carry that clipboard around all the time. They kept me on my toes. But I loved that class more than any other class I ever had. And they learned. They learned to read quietly, well, sort of quietly. They loved the novels I read aloud to them, Old Yeller, Bridge to Terabithia, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. At the end of the school year, I overheard one boy say, he told his friend, he said, "I used to be bad at reading, but now I'm good." That warmed my heart. When God claimed me as God's child, it changed everything. I could begin to claim who I was. I no longer have to hide who I am because because of whose I am. I am God's. I am God's child. Should I be loved by God? Yes, yes, yes. I not only should be loved by God, I am loved by God. So are you. For God so loves this world. I want to thank you all for listening to my long story this early in the morning. And I've prepared some discussion questions. So I'm going to ask the question, and then there's not a lot here, so maybe if you can kind of connect with 2 or 3 people, maybe you could play a little bit of music after I ask the question while people are discussing. I've prepared 4 questions, and we'll see. Yeah, it looks like we've got time. And then maybe some time for questions at the end, if we've got enough time. So here's the first question. What was your first encounter or memory with a gay or lesbian LGBTQ person? And if you don't have one, then you can just talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Thank you. Bad job. Thank you. Well,